In 166 BC, Judea was a land under siege. The Seleucid Empire, one of the most powerful forces of the ancient world, had imposed harsh rule over the region. Greek customs were being forced on the population, Jewish religious practices were banned, and sacred temples were desecrated. For many, life had become a series of compromises to survive. But among the oppressed, a fire was burning, one that would soon ignite into full-scale rebellion under the leadership of Judas Maccabeus. The Battle of Emmaus would become one of the most legendary moments in this revolt, not because of the size of the forces involved, but because of strategy, cunning, and sheer audacity. The Seleucid army, confident in its numbers, armor, and training, marched toward Emmaus expecting a straightforward victory. They were seasoned soldiers, used to facing enemies who relied on conventional warfare. They believed that a small group of Jewish insurgents, many of them armed with little more than slings, swords, and spears, could not possibly resist them. They were wrong. Judas Maccabeus was no ordinary commander. He understood the strengths and weaknesses of both his forces and his enemy. His army was small, lightly equipped, and lacked the heavy weapons of the Greeks, but they had one advantage the Seleucids did not: knowledge of the terrain and the element of surprise. Judas knew the hills, valleys, and narrow passes around Emmaus like the back of his hand. He used these natural features to orchestrate an ambush that would turn the expected Greek advantage on its head. The night before the battle, Judas moved his forces silently through hidden paths, avoiding the main road the Seleucids would take. He split his army into smaller units, positioning them along key points that would allow them to attack from multiple directions simultaneously. Scouts watched the enemy's movements, sending signals back to Judas to time the attack perfectly. It was classic guerrilla warfare long before the term existed. At dawn, the Seleucid general Gorgias expected to find the Jewish rebels camped where intelligence suggested. Instead, he encountered an empty field, cold and quiet, with no sign of the Maccabees. Confused and frustrated, he underestimated the rebels once again, assuming they had fled. This miscalculation would cost him dearly. While Gorgias reorganized his men, Judas's forces closed in from the hills and flanks. What the Greeks believed was a retreat had actually been a deliberate ploy, a trap set with precision. As the sun rose over Emmaus, the Jewish forces struck. Slings whistled through the air, arrows darkened the sky, and small groups of warriors darted in and out of cover, striking at the enemy's weakest points. Soldiers armed with short swords and spears targeted the flanks and rear, while other units descended on the Greek camp to seize supplies. The Greeks, trained for open-field combat, found themselves disoriented and overwhelmed. The tightly packed phalanx formations that had dominated battlefields across the Hellenistic world could not adapt to the sudden chaotic attacks from hidden positions. The psychological impact of the ambush was devastating. Greek soldiers were not just fighting an enemy, they were being hunted, ambushed, and humiliated in ways they had not anticipated. Panic spread quickly, and many units began to break formation. Even experienced officers struggled to maintain control. Every corner of the battlefield seemed to conceal a new threat. Every movement could bring another deadly strike. Judas's tactical brilliance had turned the very terrain into a weapon. Among the most remarkable aspects of the Battle of Emmaus was the way ordinary citizens transformed into extraordinary fighters. Villagers and farmers, long oppressed under Seleucid rule, now fought with courage born of desperation and determination. For them, it wasn't just about strategy, it was personal. Every Greek soldier represented the threat to their homes, their families, and their way of life. Their motivation, combined with Judas's leadership, created a force far more formidable than the Greeks expected. By midday, the battle was decisively turning in favor of the Maccabees. The Greek forces, once confident and well-organized, were scattered and demoralized. Supplies were captured, weapons seized, and many soldiers either fled or surrendered. The Jewish victory at Emmaus wasn't just a win, it was a statement. It proved that a smaller, less equipped force could overcome one of the most powerful armies of the ancient world through ingenuity, discipline, and unyielding spirit. The repercussions of this battle went far beyond the immediate military victory. News of the ambush spread across Judea, inspiring more people to join the revolt. The morale of the Maccabean forces soared, while the Seleucids were forced to rethink their approach. Emmaus became a symbol of resistance, a story told to instill courage in the hearts of the oppressed. In later years, the battle was remembered not only for the tactical brilliance displayed by Judas Maccabeus, but also for the collective courage of those who had once been seen as powerless. The Battle of Emmaus also illustrates a timeless military lesson. Never underestimate the underdog. Superior numbers, advanced weaponry, and training cannot guarantee victory against an enemy that understands the terrain, uses unconventional tactics, and fights with the motivation of survival and identity. It's a lesson that echoes through history, from guerrilla campaigns to modern asymmetric warfare, demonstrating that innovation and courage often outweigh brute force. Even today, historians and military enthusiasts study Emmaus as a case study in ambush tactics, speed, and strategic deception. It's a reminder that leadership and intelligence can multiply the effectiveness of a smaller force exponentially. Judas Maccabeus not only won the battle, he reshaped the rules of engagement, showing that flexibility, timing, and knowledge of the environment can defeat an opponent many times stronger. The human element of Emmaus is just as compelling as the military one. These were ordinary people pushed to extraordinary acts by oppression. The bravery of peasants and citizens turned fighters highlights a theme that resonates in every era. When survival, faith, and freedom are at stake, people can rise beyond their expected limits. Their scorned and stolen tools of daily life, swords, slings, and makeshift weapons, became instruments of justice and symbols of defiance. In the end, the Battle of Emmaus reminds us that history is shaped as much by courage and cunning as by kings and generals. It was not just a clash of armies, but a struggle of wills, intelligence, and survival. The Jewish rebels' ability to anticipate their enemy, exploit their weaknesses, and fight for their very identity made Emmaus a landmark victory, one that continues to inspire stories of rebellion and resistance across the centuries. So the next time you hear of an underdog facing a seemingly invincible opponent, remember Emmaus. Remember Judas Maccabeus and the ordinary people who turned themselves into warriors overnight, who turned farming tools into deadly weapons, and who proved that bravery, intelligence, and unity can defy empires. If you're fascinated by battles where strategy, courage, and unexpected tactics changed history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. There are countless forgotten battles and stories of human resilience waiting to be discovered, and Emmaus is just the beginning. Dive deeper into history and uncover the moments when the small, underestimated, and brave changed the course of the world.